Hi there, and welcome to Pimp Your Science. Today we are going to talk about brain feeding. Yes, brain feeding, not brainstorming, but brain feeding. And let's see what that is. Similar to our bodies that need calories and food to function, our brain also needs information to be able to think. So how we scientists come to this information is, for example, by reading scientific papers or listening to scientific presentations or discussing this work after reading or listening. We can also read scientific news online or subscribe to Scientific American or something like that, or we can talk about science with our peers over a coffee, beer, or a barbecue. Today I will talk about how do we discuss science and how do we talk about science with our peers, because these two brain feeding methods are quite different from just getting information. This is also about getting a view on that information, maybe that oppose your own view, and processing that and thinking a bit more about this. So academics have developed a very interesting exercise or a method that will not only be used to inform young scientists about latest research in any scientific field, but also to teach them how to read and critically evaluate scientific papers. This is called a journal club. Journal club is usually organized in such a way that every week a different researcher is choosing or picking a scientific paper. He sends or she sends the paper around in the lab or in the group and prepares a PowerPoint presentation. So on a given day, he or she will present the paper and then everybody will discuss it. The assumption is that everybody will critically read the paper, as I said. However, in 10 years of research experience and going to many journal clubs, I quickly realized that this is not happening in reality, and usually people, if they read the paper, they do it on the last day before the journal club or in the evening before the journal club. Hence, the journal clubs usually look like this, without any kind of very interesting discussion at the end. PIs are usually fighting this by trying to encourage people to ask questions, or even they start asking questions their students to see if they're ready at all. But is science all about forcing people to do it? I think no, and I have a solution for this. The solution I call the Powerful Journal Club. And before I explain you why this type of journal club is actually powerful, let me explain you or tell you how to organize it. So for the exercise purpose, let's say that the Powerful Journal Club is always on Fridays. So on Monday, every member of your group will choose and carefully read a paper and prepare it for Friday. No PowerPoint presentation, just read carefully and critically. I said here the best number is 6 to 8 per group. If you have more people in your group, you can maybe make two teams and each of them will have their own journal club. Anyway, when the Friday comes, on the beginning of a journal club, every member summarizes the paper they read in 3 to 5 minutes. After the summary, the members will pick one of these, let's say of 8 presented, and decide that they will all read it for the next week journal club, and then they will discuss it in details. Experimentation, control, discussion, and stuff like that. And then after this first part of the Powerful Journal Club, then they will start going through the paper that they actually selected last week on the last week Journal Club. Okay. So in summary, on every journal club, on the beginning people will present a summary of the papers, and then in the second part of the same journal club, the people will discuss the paper chosen and last week and that everybody read. So in essence, everybody will read carefully 2 papers every week. So what are the benefits of Powerful Journal Club? Okay, first you get a quick info on the latest research in the field. All members are summarizing that in 3 to 5 minutes. You can also get that by reading scientific news. However, if you have a question there, you would still need to go and look at the paper. Here, since your colleagues carefully read the whole paper, you can just quickly ask a question and get a quick answer. Also, members get a chance to choose the most interesting paper for further or next week's scrutinization. In a standard journal club, it is the single person that chooses a paper, which can be of interest of that person, but not of the group or not of a specific member. And in our overwhelmingly busy day, if this paper is not really of your interest, you don't really think twice about it. However, now you have a chance to vote. Also, everyone will be involved in presenting and discussing in the same time. There is no separation of these two things. You can go through figures, you can look at their interpretation, further discussion, and everybody will be involved. This doesn't happen in a standard journal club. Finally, since you're not preparing a PowerPoint presentation and you don't need a projector to see your slides, you can organize this meeting wherever you want, in a cafeteria, outside in a park, on a round table in your office or whatever. And this gives a lot of freedom, and definitely it's not boring. However, where is the secret of why the Powerful Journal Club is actually very powerful? Just look at these people, how they are sitting. If you don't have any PowerPoint presentation and you just bring printouts, the usual way you will sit is like this. And does this remind you of how our ancestors used to sit around the fire for thousands and thousands of years before a projector was invented? And what they were doing, they were sharing a story. They were learning from each other, from daily experience. Everybody sitting around the fire would say something that happened that day, and others will learn from that. And if some story was specifically interesting, then this person will go into details and the question will be going to ask. And this is how we transfer knowledge throughout decades. And this is why the Powerful Journal Club is powerful. In the era of internet and global information exchange, as well as global information availability, one should not underestimate the importance of talking with your peers about information that you are producing, about your science. If you look at your PIs, this is exactly what they are doing when they go to the meetings. They chat with their buddies about their science because they don't share only information, but also opinion about this information. And these opinions may actually lead to new information and some new ideas. However, when I observe my peers in 10 years of doing research, I observe that peers, or me alike, are talking about everything except science in research. I have one suggestion inspired by one of the big biotech pharma companies, and this is to make brain-inspiring science lunch. This lunch would mean that you will meet on a regular basis, 1 day a week or 5 days a week, for a lunch with another person at your institute, your department, your university. Does not need to be from the same field, for 1 hour to eat and discuss your science and his or her science. So since this is not easy to organize just by calling people in a phone book, what you or your postdoc or PhD association can do, or your IT center at university, is make a science lunch database. Here the people that like to talk about science will apply with some information about their research topics, about their interest and expertise, when they are available for lunch, on which day, at what hour, and every member would have a Google Calendar where you can see where he or she is free and click would you like to go for lunch, or where you can put when you are free. And by using this database, you will actually meet people that are just like you. They like to talk about science, and you will not feel uncomfortable or uncool if you go for lunch and talk about your science, science in general, big ideas and stuff like that. However, not to make this database a dating site, one should make some ground rules for using it, like no photos, or always meeting at university cafeteria or university coffee shop, or things like that. What you will get from this is, of course, that each week you will meet someone new to share and absorb new ideas, new experiences. This will not only inspire you, but also motivate you to do your job even better. Of course, you will expand your network in this way, your scientific and working network. You will also exercise talking skills. Explaining somebody not in your field what you are doing is a challenging thing. And on this kind of scientific lunch, you can actually practice this. And finally, you may actually meet a possible collaborator, a statistician, or a designer that you would actually not meet on your, for example, biochemistry institute. In 10 years of doing research and doing science, I had only one such an experience. I met with a colleague that works in a quite distant scientific field, for a coffee, half an hour. We stayed for 5 hours and had a lot of fun. And Pimp Your Science was born.